Bundesliga title race is absolutely incredible. Let's talk about it. One of the teams contending for the title is Bayern Munich. Bayern won the 21-22 Bundesliga, and the one before that, 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 and the one
eternity later,
and the one before that. Bayern have won every single Bundesliga since the 2012-13 season. This has led to no one watching the Bundesliga, or as some people call it, the Bayern Liga, because it is boring. Aside from Bayern, the most recent team to win the Bundesliga was Borussia Dortmund. Ever since winning the title in 11-12, Dortmund have finished second in the Bundesliga 6 times, including the most recent season. If anyone was going to finally stop Bayern's on, it was probably going to be Dortmund. Although it was going to be much harder this season without Erling Haaland, who was sold to Man City. Haaland scored an insane 89 goals in 86 games for Dortmund, and had 30 in all comps for Dortmund last season. To replace him, Dortmund signed 2 strikers, Karim Adeyemi and Sebastian Haller. Dortmund also changed their defence. They sold Manuel Akanji to Man City, but signed Nico Schlotterbeck from SC Freiburg for 20 million and Nicolas Söller from Bayern for free. And speaking of Bayern, they also made some moves, and after 375 games, 344 goals and 19 trophies, they all said Bayern Munich and left for Barcelona. Bayern signed Sadio Mane to replace him, who had just won the AFCON, Carabao Cup and FA Cup. He also finished second in the Ballon d'Or race. All of Bayern's other departures weren't huge losses, but that didn't stop them from signing Matthias de Ligt, Matthias Tal, Ryan Gravenberch and Nusay Mazraoui. Despite the loss of Lewandowski, Bayern's squad was arguably stronger, and they would prove that by beating reigning Europa League champions Frankfurt 6-1 on opening day. 2 of the goals were scored by Jamal Musiala, the talented youngster who would go on to make 22-23 his breakout season. Bayern then beat Wolfsburg 2-0 and smashed Mino's VfL Bochum 7-0. After only 3 games, Bayern had 9 points with a goal difference of 14, and it seemed like we were set for another boring season where Bayern won the league. But then something incredible happened. Bayern started dropping points. First was a 1-1 draw to Mönchengladbach, then a 1-1 draw at Union Berlin, then a 2-2 draw to Stuttgart, and after Bayern lost 1-0 to Augsburg on matchday 7, they sat 5th with only 12 points from a possible 21. But who was first? Dortmund? Mönchengladbach? Leipzig? No. Union Berlin. Union Berlin have created their own underdog story in the past few years. After being promoted to the Bundesliga in 2019, Union have only gotten better each season in the Bundesliga. They finished 11th in their first season, 7th in their second, and 5th in their most recent season, qualifying for the Europa League. And this season they've gone above and beyond, putting themselves in serious contention for the title. They started their season with a 3-1 win over Hertha Berlin, and then kept up by going undefeated in their first 7 games of the season. Some of their star performers include goalie Frederic Ronau, who currently has the best save percentage in the Bundesliga. There's also defender Robin Nashay, who's 8th in interceptions out of all players in the top 5 leagues. Neil Adoki is a defender who's great in the air, and their top scorer is Geraldo Becker with 7 goals. These players led the Union to an unbelievable start of the season, where they won 4 games and drew 3 from their first 7 matches, including a 1-1 draw against Bayern. Frankfurt ended this incredible run by beating Union 2-0, but Union would recover and beat one of the best Bundesliga sides, Borussia Dortmund 2-0. This put Union Berlin 4 points clear on top of the table. Unfortunately, a slip-off against VfL Bochum lowered their lead on the competition. After 10 games, Union had 23 points. Bayern had just beaten Hoffenheim 2-0 and were now only 1 point behind Union. But don't sleep on Freiburg, who just beaten Werder Bremen 2-0 and were 2 points behind Union. Frankfurt had just beaten Mönchengladbach 3-1 to sit 4th, 3 points behind first. Mainz also just won 5-0 against Cologne and was 6th, sitting 5 points behind first. Hoffenheim was 7th and 6 points behind first. And then you had 3 teams tied on 16 points in RB Leipzig, Mönchengladbach and Cologne. Werder Bremen were 1 point behind them, and Augsburg were 1 point behind Bremen, which meant that 11 games into the season, there were only 9 points separating 1st and 12th. This league was competitive. Union Berlin and Bayern both won their next game, but Union got battered 2 weeks later by a Leverkusen side who weren't even in form. And since Bayern beat Hertha Berlin 3-2, they overtook Union on the table. Freiburg also overtook Union with a 2-0 win over Cologne. But slowly, it looked like Bayern might run over the league again. Freiburg and Union Berlin both dropped points next week, while Bayern smashed Werder Bremen 6-1, putting them 4 points clear on top. Bayern then beat Schalke 2-0 the next week and remained on top for the next 2 months. After match week 15, the Bundesliga took a break to allow players to play at the FIFA World Cup. But unlike most leagues who returned after Christmas, the Bundesliga gave their players an additional winter break. This meant that for 68 days, no Bundesliga matches were played. Let's see how the table looked during this absence. The league was starting to filter out. The once 9 point gap between 1st and 12th was now 16 points. Bayern were first with 34 points, 4 points clear of second. They also had a goal difference to put everyone else to shame. Second place was Freiburg with 30 points. They had just come off of a 4-1 win against Union Berlin as well. After somewhat of a slow start, RB Leipzig had gotten their act together and sat 3rd with 28 points, while Frankfurt were only a point behind them, sitting 4th with 27 points. Union Berlin sat behind Frankfurt only on goal difference, but their form had faltered and they were now outside the top 4. And then there was Dortmund. They were struggling to perform and sat 6th with 25 points, 9 behind Bayern. Dortmund would have been much higher up had it not been for the way they ended the first half of the season, losing 2-0 to Wolfsburg and 4-2 to Mönchengladbach. So, after a 68-day absence, the Bundesliga had finally returned. All form had basically been thrown out the window. It almost felt like a new season. The first game back was Bayern Munich vs RB Leipzig, and Bayern dropped points in a 1-1 draw. But like I said before, this was a new game, and form didn't matter. And that was proven in a game between Wolfsburg and Freiburg. Freiburg went into that game in second, but they were humiliated by Wolfsburg 6-0. As it's Leipzig and Freiburg both dropped points, Bayern actually extended their lead in the table, despite dropping points themselves. Meanwhile, Frankfurt beat Schalke 3-0 and Union Berlin beat Hoffenheim 3-1, putting them second and third respectively. Dortmund also won, beating Augsburg 4-3 in a 7-goal thriller, but still remained 6th. RB Leipzig would make up for dropping points the next week with a 6-1 win against Schalke, but Bayern couldn't say the same. The Bavarians once again dropped points, this time drawing 1-1 to Cologne, where they needed a late Joshua Kimmich goal just to earn the point. Freiburg and Frankfurt actually played each other where they shared the points, drawing 1-1. Dortmund also looked to draw 1-1, but a late J. Reina goal earned them all 3 points against Mainz. Hold that, Greg! Union Berlin also found themselves in trouble against Werder Bremen going down 1-0, but Yannick Herberta and Kevin Behrens got Union the 3 points. Despite Bayern dropping 4 points in 2 games, they still remained on top of the table. Frankfurt and Freiburg paid for their draw as they fell down the table, while Union Berlin, RB Leipzig and Dortmund all moved up. So now Bayern really had to switch on. They were only 3 points ahead of Union Berlin and needed all 3 points against Frankfurt, but they couldn't get it. Randall Colomwani cancelled out Leo Sané's goal and Bayern once again drew 1-1. And with Union Berlin, RB Leipzig, Dortmund and Freiburg all winning, the Bundesliga was suddenly a tight race again. There were only 5 points between 1st and 6th. Bayern finally got their act together in the next match, beating Wolfsburg 4-2. But Union Berlin's 2-1 win against Mainz had them breathing right down Bayern's neck, while Dortmund were also balling. Despite being known as the second best team in Germany, Dortmund had been on the outside looking into the season, never really putting any pressure on the top of the table. But that all changed after the World Cup break ended, and with a huge 5-1 win against Freiburg, Dortmund were officially back in business. The next match day, RB Leipzig and Frankfurt both dropped points, and it slowly started to look like we had 3 main contenders: Bayern Munich, Union Berlin, and Borussia Dortmund. All 3 of these teams won on match day 20, and the table stayed the same as last week. Bayern on top, Union Berlin 1 point behind them, and Dortmund 2 points behind them. But on match day 21, everything went mad. Bayern lost to Mönchengladbach 3-2. This gave Union a chance to top the table, but they failed to score past Schalke and drew 0-0. And after Dortmund battered Hertha Berlin 4-1, we had a 3-way tie in the Bundesliga. Bayern had 43 points, Dortmund had 43 points, Union had 43 points. We're 21 games into the season, by the way. Freiburg were also 3 points behind first, while Leipzig and Frankfurt were also in the fight. This might just be one of the greatest title races ever seen. The next week, which is the most recent one at the time of writing, saw a game that could be the title decider: Bayern Munich vs Union Berlin. The day before the game, Dortmund beat Hoffenheim thanks to a Julian Brandt goal. This put Dortmund on top of the table, and they would remain there if Union drew or beat Bayern by 6 goals or less. But this didn't happen, because in a huge statement game, Bayern Munich stepped up and beat Union Berlin 3-0 thanks to goals from Eric Schiffer-Moting, Kingsley Coman and Jamal Musiala. This win has kept Bayern on top of the table for the time being, with 12 more games to go. So, that's what has happened in the Bundesliga title race so far. As of right now, Bayern and Dortmund are joint top, with Bayern's insane goal difference giving them an advantage. Union Berlin are 3 points behind them, while RB Leipzig and Freiburg narrowly trail the Union. But who do I think is winning the league? Well, I hope it's anyone but Bayern, because quite frankly, I'm sick of them winning the league. And if I'm being real, I think it will be Bayern. They have the experience in title races, they know what to do and how to do it. And they've just made their squad even stronger. Manuel Neuer got injured skiing over his break, so Bayern went out and brought one of the best keepers in the Bundesliga, Jan Sommer. They also loaned João Cancelo in and have an option to make the deal permanent next season. But I'm not counting anyone out. RB Leipzig haven't been the best team in the league this season, but they're only 4 points behind Bayern, and with the squad they have, you cannot underestimate them. Union Berlin has been great. I expected them to fall off after the World Cup, but they haven't. Same thing with Freiburg. They're still competing this deep in the season despite not having a squad as strong as Bayern or Dortmund. And speaking of Dortmund, don't count them out either. They've hit form at the perfect time, and if they win the upcoming De Clasico in a month's time, they honestly could go on to win the entire thing. But that is going to wrap up today's video, guys. Thanks for watching, and tell me who you think will win the Bundesliga down below. Make sure to like and sub, have a great day, and I'll see you next time.